Hey there, Ddraig back, and of course, now we've done the units, which I'll pop a link into the top right hand corner, we're going to look at the campaign itself. So this is the Truthsayers of Albion, and this is obviously the main scene, and the first thing I'm going to do is skip turn. So the reason for this, you become very apparent when it's just done as end turning of monologue it does here. Remember the days where it's took an age? Those are good days. Not even slightly. Anyway. So any second this will finish, and you see exactly why I did this. Here we are. So, first, what proper decision of your campaign is to choose which warrior you want. So you can have the Queen of War or Druid of War. So that's of course the ones I went over in the roster. The Phantom Queen, or Morgana, I think her name is, and then Druid of War is Ddraig. So you just choose which one you want, and away you go. Now I'm going to choose, we'll choose a Queen. And let's give you 2 armies from the start. So now we'll go take you through our usual campaign overview. So first of all, this is obviously Albion, right at the top here, just north of Betonia. And you've got 3 provinces. You only own the one, which is the head province. So let's go into the building structure straight away. Why not? Quite a lot in here, to be fair. And I'm going to show you off my campaign, which I try to do every one of these, towards the end of this video. Well, right at the end of this video. And I'll go into a bit more detail into that at that stage, because there's a few small things about it. And when you capture the entire Albion, it's got a few unique buildings I wanted to point out. So, but in the meantime, this is one of the unique buildings, Forge of the Old Ones. So that provides all the resources straight from the off. For quite difficult to get to that stage, but that is a vital thing for trade. And the Uncovered Waystone is on every single one. So it just empowers the way it work structure, and I'll show you that in a minute. But think the Isbn. Pretty much their structure. It's exactly the same feature. Then we got the horse riders, or the cavalry. And all the various units there. There's nothing special apart from that. That's recruits, and exactly the same for these is the infantry line. Then we got the Feral Griffin and Highlanders and War Chariot. So that comes down this icon. And we got where the Trebuchet is, and income from trade as well when you hit the top. Obviously, yeah, recruitment rag +1 and your recruitment rag as well. Don't think there's anything on these, is there? No. Oh, there's exactly. I know, is there? I did not realise that. And enables recruitment for Albion Chieftains, Yoga Province as well. Yeah, so that's that thing. Yeah, so that's identical. Moving on. Maiden's Hall, Untainted, and Untainted +4. Then we've got the Circle, Stone Circle. Now I've been noticing in my own playthrough that Chaos Corruption is a bit of a weird thing with Albion. You seem to create it quite a lot of it, and it's not your friend. And then you have to balance your Public Order and the Untainted, which as you can see provides it in here, to try to balance it out. Now I've got it to a stage currently in my campaign, which again I'll show you later. I think I might play a bit more. I'm recording this on a Saturday. So I'm going to play a bit more probably tomorrow morning, just to see if I can get a bit more into the further into the campaign, just so I get more of a bearing of what's going on. Anyway, this is of course where you equip Druid Neophants, Half Giants, and all the mythical creatures. And we've got the Druids themselves, and Fen Beasts and the Fen Hulk down there. I don't think there's anything special about these. Yeah, more Untainted, so you can see this is where you boost your Untainted to try to balance it out. Then you got the Garrison, as always. Patrols, try to get those annoying Skaven. Then you got a nice bit of income and some furs. Nice bit of growth as well. And then Public Order, right the last one. Again, very ideally you're going to build this building. So that's a quick overview of the tree, and like I said, in the last video I'll probably go a bit more into that because I think it's got some more interesting features. So if we start off, what you can start off with the campaign. So as you saw, the first turn you have this army. Now, it's a pretty basic army, as in there's only 3 units and Grigor here. Now this does seem to tank your supply line for obvious reasons. Now this is obviously non-modded, apart from obviously the Oz Factions mod, so it's going to eat into your cash picture straight away. Now on my campaign I've got rid of this army straight away because I don't think it's much use. And I need the cash to expand my main army. Now the main army is much more interesting. So we've got a giant, some noble horse warriors with spears, Cheap units, but good at charging. Again, unit overview video if you want to check that out a bit more later on. Young Buds, so a bit of missiles. Warband, Hearthguard, a vital unit, and the Great Sword Maidens, another great unit. So that's that particular section. And as you can see, it's quite an interesting campaign really, because you're in a very unique place. Like, you're not against the High Elves, really. You're not against Bretonnia. Norsca you have a bit of an issue with, and you got, of course, the Dark Elves over here. So it's an interesting location. Quite unique, I would think. And of course, the biggest threat is Norsca itself. Now, I've been playing through the campaign, like I said, and you do get random events appearing here, an army spawn. And a word of warning, this place here, spoiler alert, is home to actually quite a powerful faction. The garrison is quite small, but it is got a bit of a familiar theme, which sounds a bit weird when I just said it out loud. But yeah, it's a bit tougher than you think, and you might not be able to take it with your initial army. So just be careful, just be aware that you might need to build up a bit of army before you start to take that. And I made a mistake in my first playthrough and tried to take it with a basic army. Didn't go well. You may be able to do it with both armies, but I'll leave you to find that out. So that's just a quick look at the overview of the campaign. So onto the technology tree now, and I usually try to, if it's a small one, like this is reasonably small, I like to put it in sort of the introduction. I think I'll go away from that. I think people just like to see the tech as a section, and and the higher to come is always a shortcuts to all the various sections. So I want to make sure it's nice separated out, so everybody, if they're just interested in one section, they can just quickly nip to it and get the information they need. So in this case, for technology tree, interesting one actually. It's quite neatly laid out. So we're going to quickly go over it. We'll start from the top. So this is mainly about the improving your units. So you've got some interesting ones. A few things that I would think, I'm going to come back to this one in a minute. We've got a nice bit of ammunition, vulnerability, and Heroes of Albion. Now this here is rather much of a key one, I would say. Now if you're unaware, in the unit video there's two main buffs for the infantry and a lot of the units of Albion. War Fury 1 is a decent buff. War Fury 2 is not a great, it's pretty much a debuff. It pretty much states that if they're using combat, their leadership will tank quite quickly, and very early on you notice it quite heavily. Now I would suggest, of course my own personal preference, is to go for this as soon as possible. And yes, you don't mind the actual toughness of the battles, but it does help quite a lot. So if you are struggling, I'd go for that. And to do that, you need to go down there and hit that, but that will not unlock that. You have to have this as well. So it's a good 20 turns, I would say, to get into that part of the tree. So that is a vital thing. Personally, I would say that's a key one in this technology tree. It just helps your units it helps your battles make yourself a bit easier on the battlefield, because you don't have to worry about that really quick tank of leadership, which is really annoying. But kind of unique to the Albion, so you can play around with it. Like I've just have ranks of troops like you've seen in some of the videos, where you have one rank of standard infantry, which have this buff, and you got another rank to support them. So if they panic, you send the next one in and so forth. That works quite well, but with this off their table, it makes life easier. Anyway, back to the technology tree. So you got this against research rate. That gives you deprivations with high elves and Isman. So this is what I was saying. You don't have to go against Norsca or Warriors of Chaos. I kind of like going against them, especially Norsca, because Norsca got a cool roster. Warriors of Chaos, a bit iffy, as we all know. Ancient allies, so a bit of missile resistance and speed and melee attack to the giants and the centaurs and things like that. They got avatars of the hand. So these are all the monster units. Holy Warriors, Holy Zeal for Sword Maidens and Druid Neophytes. I don't know what the Holy Zeal is. I presume it's a pretty damn good ability though. So it's right at the end of the tree. And Guardians of the Wood. Protectors of the Wood for all armies. Interesting. That's quite a cool buff, that. Again, haven't got that far in our campaign yet. Then you got Trade. Now, another good point about this one, if you just saw my overview of the campaign, and on one of those sections there was a building at the your starting settlement which provides a load of trade resources. Without that building you don't have many trade resources. You do have a couple, like some of the, like there's exotic animals and there's another one for furs, but that is key, and if you get that I would definitely go into this as soon as possible, especially because in my own campaign, which you'll see later, I've got some trade going on with Betonia and the High Elves, so the more trade the better. You've got the hand, really good, minus 15% is quite a significant amount of money off. Rights, Disciples of the Old Ones, and of course the bottom one is Way of Peace, so more additional trade resources, not a big deal. Hunting practices, and casual replenishment, and gathering of the tribe leaders. Now of course to unlock these you need to have both sides before you can get it, so it's quite nicely done by Shaky Withers, so it keeps you have to keep getting, you have to quite focus on what you want to get. So if you want to get this or that, you have to make sure you go down each tree and then go straight to that. It's a very nice skill tree, technology tree even. Okay, let's move on to the next section. And now onto the skill tree, and we'll start off with Morgan, the Phantom Queen. So as you saw, you get a choice of which one to choose from, and let's just have a quick look at the various sections. So nothing out of the ordinary so far. Draft Master's always a nice one to have. Lightning Strike, I have to admit sometimes I just don't bother with that because I just like the really big battles, even though it's really handy. Then you got Logic Edition, Experienced Ambusher, Premonition, and Renowned and Feared. And we got all the leadership ones, all the army ones. So we've got Albion warbands, stacking up to quite a hefty melee attack 10 and plus 6 for Albion warbands. And then you got the Hearthguard, High-Enders, etc. Covers a few more yards. Then you got Monsters of the Mystery Isle, Savage Warriors, Death from Afar. Not a great missile units, but they have a few. It does include Stonefalls as well, so that's quite nice. Because, nice bit of ammunition there. Plus 12% on the Stonefall is quite a significant amount of damage. You got Battle Speed. Then you got Rally, which is a classic. Deadly Hunters, Defenders of the Myth, Merciless Barbarians, and Champions of Orginz. So these are all the, when they hit certain ranks, they get a bit better. And Warcry. A great ability that. I think that's such a powerful ability. Leadership and melee attack and melee defense in one buff. 18 seconds. Quite a young cooldown, but it's really powerful, that is. Then he's got his own magical choices, so you can really kit him out exactly how you, well, I won't say exactly how you want, but you can't as much, because you need a 4 in here. I suppose you can max these out and not bother with fucking them. Up to you, but I would always take Wild of Heart, and each one of these has their uses. That I don't think has a bigger use, depends who you're fighting. If you're facing Skaven, obviously I would take that, but I wouldn't say it's a vital one, that one. Evasion, Pit of Shades, it's an excellent spell, and Transformation Cadence, you got to take one in each of them. Definitely. And Magical Reserves and everything is always good. And Arcane Conduct. A classic. So, the most interesting part, the Magical Being. So she gets a Murder of Crows ability, which of course causes damage to combatants, strong versus multiple combatants around. So it's an effect around herself, effective range 30 meters. Very powerful. Darkened Skies. Causes damage to combatants, so that reduces range and speed. Omen of Victory, another interesting. Does this after knocking? Oh, that knocks both of them actually. Omen of Doom and Omen of War. That's a hell of a card, isn't it? Let's be fair. So both of those are just great. They've got great synergy. They have. I really like that ability. Experienced Mage, so just be basic mage stuff. Morgan's Handmaidens, so that's quite a lot of things for the Soul Maidens, Huntresses, to be fair. Battle Speed, Recruitment Rank plus 4, that's quite cool. Eagle Eyes, I'm not sure what Eagle Eyes is, a Berserker. Interesting. I would like to know what they are, so I might do that on one of my campaigns, I have to admit. Goddess Unleashed, so that's a very nice debuff, a very nice hex. Really good round south, and a big effective range as well, 60 meters. That's really powerful. Like that. A weapon, a bound spell, Flock of Doom. Is it a weapon? No, it's just an ability. But it adds a bit of Winds of Magic and Ward Save, which is very powerful. Regal. Endless Conflict. Anything else of interest? Protective Charms, Trained Reflexes, Brass Younged, and Raven Mother. That's the other, it's a magic missile ability. Wings of Fate. You get that quite early on. That's quite a good little ability, that. It's just another combat spell. So there you go, and that is Morgan. And now for our other Edriod, Ddraig. Of course, a Druid. So, let's have a look through his. So, on the bottom, pretty much identical, I would say. I think that's actually different, think about it. Steward of the Realm, but Growth, Yagni Strike, Logistication, Experienced Ambusher, Premonition, and Renowned and Feared. So, it's slightly different. These will be the same as our previous Edriod. Yes, all these are identical. Yep, let's just skip over that one. Oh, just make sure we asked. Yeah, walk right at the end. Okay, so Wings of Fate. So these are, of course, the abilities for the Albion Yaw of Magic. So, of course, you've got Mists of Albion. So, you've got the Wings of Fate, cause moderate damage, magical damage, and strong versus multiple characters. Then we've got map-wide missile resistance whenever they cast. Very handy for us army with very little armour. So get casting as soon as you start charging in. Breast of Valor, a really powerful ability. That is melee attack and base damage. Very nice. Boon of Courage. Extended effect duration plus 30 armour. And Knight of Protection. And I'm just looking through these. I'll get back to that one in a minute. Now, these cost a lot. 10, 11, and 14. Winds of Fate is 8. So pocketing this is not actually the easiest thing to do in the world, to be fair. But there's some interesting abilities there. We've got Boon of Courage and, of course, Knight of Protection. Magic Resistance and Flame Resistance. Fire Mage, look out. Evasion. Gift of Life, a very powerful ability. Of course, costs a fortune. All of these are actually pretty much the entire roster. I think I mentioned this in the unit. Yes, that is not much to proc. The only thing we need to proc is this Wings of Fate ability. So you usually get a cheaper spell, but just on looking this over as you do. And you got Magical Reserves, and of course Arcane Conduit, obviously going to be very much needed. Mentor, so this is his own personal unique skills. Recruitment rank +4. Now I've noticed this in quite a few of their abilities. Like some of the buildings I've noticed have a really high recruitment rank. So it's interesting that for Albion. I wonder if there's a Yaw reason for that. Not to my knowledge, but again, not a big Yaw person. Really good bonus for Giants and Half Giants. Minus up 50% upkeep. These are expensive units, as you might have guessed. From Swamps, some more melee defense. Recruitment rank and melee attack. Really powerful recruitment rank actually. Druid Hero. Plus 15%. Oh, that's very powerful. Very powerful. What level is this? 15. Yeah, I can see why these are very powerful, these abilities. Imperfect Shield of the Old Ones. So 60 15% damage. Reasonable. And a really good targeting rate. A 40 meter range is not too bad. So it's a good little ability. Then we got True Master of Albion. So some of the units of Fem Beasts. Very powerful unit, and you only get two uses of that. Unfortunately, it does use Winds of Magic, and 12. It's quite expensive, but very powerful indeed. And then the Circle of Truthsayers. So as you can see, a lot for this one. Recruitment rank +4 for Druid Neophytes. Recruitment rank +2 for Truthsayers or Albion, all provinces. Melee attack +15 for Druid Neophytes, and leadership +10. So if you like Druids, this is the character you want to be. And they get Bound Spell Banishment for Druid spell. That's really cool. That's really nice ability. As you can see, that's why it's rank 20. Then we've got the Staff of Druel. Casting map wide +10 ability recharge. Quite unique, nothing special, but unique ability. But it does boost his Winds of Magic quite significantly. And reduces theirs. Damage of the Old Ones. Nice little refresh on his health. Go on his Chariot. Pretty decent. As you can see the stats to the left. Warhorse. I think a Chariot is well worth it because in combat he's nothing special. Endless Conflict. Let's nip over to the right here. Protective charms, trained reflexes, brass younged, and you're almost of the truthsayers. So that is that is a must, I would say. Dropping all those winds of magic so you get your procs off. Vital. Definitely get that. Anyway, that is Ddraig's skill tree. So onto my own campaign. So this is my own test part of the video where I just get a good few turns into the campaign and tell you how I'm getting on. So as you can see, I've taken Albion, and a couple of reasons to do this. Obviously, I want to have this as my home base where I train all my troops, and the other reason is as I was going through it, I realised there's quite a lot of specific strategic locations for the Truthsayers of Albion. So I thought, well, I could definitely want to do that because I could show them off in the video to give you a bit more idea. So I went over briefly this on the introduction. This is a familiar overall screen, and there's the Forge of the Old Ones, which is unique to this particular region. So let's go to the Isle of Wight, which, if you British know, there's a play on the Isle of Wight Island, which is off the coast of, I think it's the south coast or the west coast. Isle of Man, Isle of Wight. Isle of Wight is south. Right, anyway, so we've got a couple of unique buildings here as well, which makes actually building here an interesting proposition because you've got so many choices. So you've got all the choices I've been through already, and you've also got these two extra choices, as you can see here. I've decided to go into them. So we've got Bowels of Albion, provides garrison, 3 Albion rights, and it allows me to recruit them. So this is what you saw in my unit overall video. And then we've got the Great Orginz Circle, which provides a ton of things to ton of particular units. So this allows me to recruit these. Now these are usually only from this building, like the half giants. I think that's from that building as well. That's from that one actually. So this provides a ton of good units from one building. So it's a perfect thing to take on. So that's which one's that? That's Isle of Wight, and then we'll go to the Citadel of Yed, and they have 1 unit building. Now this is where it gets a bit more interesting. And as you can see, it doesn't. Warriors of Chaos don't like it when you build this. You'll build this building, and same in Norska. Now this is more interesting. Your recruitment rank plus 8. Now I don't think I've ever seen anything that high before for recruiting the Edge of the Yord, but there is a massive problem with that, and that's the 50 Chaos Corruption. Now, if I go back to the main screen, so that's the only unique building there, and that's why I haven't built it yet. Still on the fence, not sure if I will, because the corruption at the moment is 73%, pretty substantial. So I have to counteract that with public order buildings and just a general. So if I go into the public order, I got buildings which are 10, taxes, difficulty level, and events. Difficulty level, I think on campaign is hard on this one. I can't remember which I chose. I usually have a campaign as hard as default when I'm testing things. Anyway, it's either that or normal. Pretty sure it's hard though. So as you can see, I have to balance that out with all the buildings. So I've got 10 buildings that are providing that influence, just to compensate for all the chaos corruption. And so that's a constant battle. That is why I've not built this here, because of that massive chaos corruption, and I would have to balance out again. Now a lot of these buildings do provide some, like this provides a lot of public order, and I plan to build that here as well, and that should keep this place settled nicely. There was any corruption for that one? No, but you got the income on that. 1,000 gold straight off them off. Income from all buildings plus 50% all regions in this province, and all those resources. That is a must build. Anyway, let's get back to my campaign. So I only have 1 army, which is up here now at the moment. So I decided to push into Norska, just because I fancied going off, because I was coming to the end of the walkthrough. I might play this a bit more. I haven't decided yet. But I've quite enjoyed it. I have to admit, this is actually quite not the easiest place to take. There's some good armies here, and you constantly get armies coming at you as well. I've had about 2 or 3, not massive stacks, but substantial. And I'll go for my tech tree in a bit as well, actually, because that's quite interesting. So I went with Morgan, the Phantom Queen. So as I've got a skill tree, I'll show you where I've been. So obviously I've gone down all the magic routes, pretty much maxed that out. Oh, well, getting there, and I've got Wave of Mother as well for another magic missile spell, which doesn't take any wins of magic up. Very handy. So that's hers. I've also got my main army. So Made a bit of a mistake here. I've built sort of you get a fair view of his basic. The giant is basic, as you can see, he's pretty damn nails now. And I've got some a varied, if a serious yak of armour warband here. As you can see, nobody has got any armour apart from my war chariots. Now I went over here and I then realised as soon as I started the fight, because I fought quite a substantial Vermeer based, troll army it was. And it was quite substantial, and then I realised I haven't got much anti-arge. And these only got, thankfully they got AP, but they haven't got anti-arge bonuses. So I had to rely on my Youngbloods for a bit, and then rely heavily on my spear units, which are here. And then I just countered with some heavy warband great weapons to get through the armour. And Morgana is an amazing magic user. She's really good. She's got a great rack of spells, and she's really powerful. Really enjoyed playing with her. I haven't tried the Ddraig, was it? Actually, can I actually recruit him? Let's have a quick look. I think he can. I'm not so sure though. I don't think he can. There may be a quest you can do with the towards the end. If Shaky's watching this, if you could put in the comments for me, that would be appreciated. Or is it one off? You get either get one or the other. I kind of had the idea of one off, to be honest. That sort of focuses your campaign a bit more. Right, quick over the tech tree as well. And this is, as you can see, what term is this? 41. So I've gone through this quite quick. Oh yeah, I didn't show this in the introduction video. This is the Waystone restoration. So this is all the. If I jump out a bit, you can see there's a fair few Waystones around, which you can, of course, try to get back to improve that. I'm not that keen on the Waystone mechanic. It's not Shaky's fault, it's just what the Isman have. The Isman makes sense. I suppose it does make sense for these, but I'm not a big fan of it. I think it needs to be a bit reworked. Along with some of the original Warhammer 2 races needs a bit of a tweak. Skaven are a brilliant campaign. They've got so many different things transferred DLC. High Elves are decent. They've got a fair few now. I think the Isman are a bit yakking though, I personally think. They've got a few options, but I think they need a bit of a boost. And the Wood Elves, which have just been released. Well, not released, but I've seen a lot of previews from the various other YouTubers. And that looks very interesting. I'm looking forward to that. Anyway, that's not the part of this video. So, basically, all I've done is conquered that and taken this. And starting to push out. But yeah, this was not a struggle, but I would suggest you take Isle of Wights quickly. Because I effed that. I tried to take... there's an army here, took that out. And then I was going to take this, and I thought I'd leave it for a while because that garrison is actually quite substantial. And then I had a couple of armies try to land on my shore, so I had to take care of them. And then by the time I got to Isle of Wight, I can't remember what type of army it is. I'm thinking Chaos, but I can't remember off the top of my head. Well, that was starting to get a garrison. That was starting to actually recruit the army. And by the time I got there, it was quite a substantial fight. So if you can take that quite quickly, and that will save you a lot of trouble in the future, because the garrison wasn't that big. And as you can see now, I've got a garrison. I've got a good solid garrison in all the various provinces. And the Citadel of Isle of Wights, which is the weakest one, hasn't got a garrison building. That's all based on the 3 Hearthguard, or the 3 Albion Battle Wights. It's a Hearthguard. It's quite a decent little force there, to be fair. Anyway, I think I should leave it there. So, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.